We have the Oregon women's basketball team here. So I thought we'd go back to your days in college, and I want to start off with a clip, and then I'd just like to get your thoughts on this clip. So your good friend Sherry Cole likes to ask the question, how does it feel to be coached by me? How would you answer that question?
Who does she ask that question to?
To herself.
How does it feel to be coached by me?
That's right. It's a self-reflection question.
Oh, I thought she asked her players.
No.
I was going to go right backstage and say, what the hell's your problem? Don't ever ask those guys anything like that. You don't want to know the answer to that question.
So what is the answer to that question?
Oh, man. Coach is a very interesting guy. He's a very intelligent, smart, but the one thing, he's a very honest guy. So whatever you get from him is the truth. And I think that's the one thing I learned from him is he was able to tell the truth to me, which I couldn't tell to myself when I got to college. So that's where, that started.
When were you able to tell yourself the truth?
When you get to college, you can't hide anymore. When you're in high school, you're probably the best player, so you can hide. You can hide all your weaknesses as a basketball player, as a person, flaws that you have. And then when you get to college, I think that's when you start really finding yourself. And you can only become the best person you can be is when you figure out those flaws and see how you can change them and better yourself. So, every single day I wake up, I have plenty of flaws, let me tell you, and I just try to get better at them, daily.
And what do you think the best lesson you learned from Gino was?
He might sound smart, but at the core of it, it's very simple. It's work ethic. And I think working hard is a skill, and it's the one thing that he taught me. Above having talent, above loving the game, you have to work at it. You have to work really, really hard. That's the only way you can get the best out of yourself. There's always a little bit more. If you think you're working hard, there's always a little bit more. And I think that's stayed with me even till now. We were just talking about it. I'm 37 now, and tomorrow I'm going to wake up, and is there a little bit more? I'm going to try to find it.
And what has allowed you to sustain for so long in your mind?
I've been lucky. I've been really, really lucky. I think everyone goes through periods in their life where it's difficult, and if you're lucky enough to have great teammates, a great support system, the people you put around you, I think that's probably helped me the most is, my family, the people that have helped me during those really, really hard times. I think when you leave college, there's a lot of different avenues you can take. That's the one thing that I think has definitely helped me.
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you a clip from Jay Wright, who coaches men's basketball at Villanova, and I'd just like to see how you interact with this thought.
The goal of any team is to get your most talented players, the most committed to your core values. That's when you have special teams.
What do you think about that?
He's completely right. When you step on the court, not only are you trying to gain the respect of the opponent, but my goal was to make sure that the people on my team always respected what I did. And that was every day. That was a daily grind. And then you see the level of everyone going with you. I think when you start separating yourself and thinking, well, I don't have to do this because I can do this the next night, I think that's when, those problems start coming up. And what Jay said is completely right.
When did you realize that?
I'm a very self-deprecating person, so I just think I suck most of the time, to tell you the truth. So, to me, I feel like I need to work hard every single day. That to me is vital to being a decent basketball player, so I can sleep at night. I really I'll go to sleep and think I'm not very good.
How is that possible?
It's just this thing inside me that it's almost like a disease. It keeps me up at night every single day, and it still does. And I say when I don't have that feeling anymore, that's when I'll stop playing basketball. That's when I'm like, okay, cool. I can go on to something different.
And would you say it's an addiction to getting better?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an addiction to something that I love to do. And, you know, when you play a lot of basketball, you go through these different phases of it's work, it's love, it's, you know, it's a double-edged sword. You put so much into it, you have to sacrifice so much. So, you know, there's an inner battle that, you know, as a human being, you have to make sure you balance with life and basketball.
And how have you thought about that sacrifice as you've grown?
I mean, I've sacrificed a lot, and I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, you don't get anywhere in life without putting everything into it. And if you don't, you're just shortchanging yourself, your coaches, your teammates. You know, if you do that, then you can live with the outcome, whatever it is. But the worst thing in the world is, you know, to wake up the next morning and know, well, maybe I didn't put all my effort into it. You know.
And one of the things that we did with the Oregon women's team is we asked them these two questions. Top 3 things that could get in the way of them maximizing their ability as a team.
Wow.
And then the biggest personal struggle that they have that not many people know about. I'd like to start with that with you. What would be, if you reflect on your career, biggest personal struggle that you dealt with that not many people know about?
Wow. That's a deep question. I think for me it was a balance of mostly things off the court, kind of getting in the way of what I was trying to do on the court. Some things were self-imposed. Other things happened because it's life.
Can you deconstruct that a little?
Well, so I would say 2009, I had a certain event. I got a DUI in Phoenix, and that moment, for a lot of reasons, just changed the trajectory of my career. You know, when you put yourself in a position where you don't control your life anymore, you really start thinking about every decision you make, and it comes in different forms. For me, that was something that embarrassed my family, my coaches, my teammates. You know, the franchise that, you know, gives me everything every summer, the Olympic team. There was just so much embarrassment in me that little life moment changed a lot of the things that happen in the future for the next, 12 years.
And what do you think the biggest difference was in your mentality pre-DUI?
Oh, I think I was just like untouchable. I could do whatever I want, whenever I want. It was going to resolve itself some way, and it wasn't going to affect me. And I think when you get to that point, that's a very dangerous position to be in as a human being. Whether you're a basketball player, whether you work a 9 to 5, those are the times where you really need the people around you. And for me, that really helped me, get past that moment.
And what was the commitment post DUI that you made to yourself?
Oh, there was a lot of things. Lifestyle change. There was a lot of things I had to look into the mirror and just. There was certain things in my life that if I wanted to become what I thought I could be, I would have to cut it out. Whether it was personal relationships, whether it was, off the court behavior, whether it was the interactions I was having with certain people, all those things affect you in a way that's either positive or negative. And, that was a commitment I made to myself.
And were people telling you, hey, you need to shift your lifestyle prior, and you just weren't hearing them?
It's tough. It's tough having those conversations when, you're 25 and you're hanging around with other 25-year-olds. Those are the hardest conversations to have. I had people in my ear, but, sometimes if it doesn't come from within, it doesn't matter.
And are you the type that has to touch the stove to realize it's hot?
I am a stove toucher. I am. Unfortunately, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness, and I do like to touch the stove and see if it's hot. And then it was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hot that night. A little bit too hot that night.
Well, transition and back to the team. So this top question that we asked, the top 3 things, what they did is they put all their answers on the sticky notes and they called them out. And here was the list that this team identified as bullets that could take them down. I'm sure you've seen these things inside of the team. And one of the realizations that we had is, if you look back at that list, we divided this into 2 columns: human-related issues, sport-related issues. So on this list, all of those went to the human-related side. And so we're trying to attack those things, and that's where we'd like to go next with you. So we'd like to start with selfishness. And you had a great quote one time. So Gino said to you, "I think you're selfish." And this was your quote. He said, "What are you talking about?" I love to pass.
I mean, what's more unselfish than what he meant? I think what he meant was, I was being selfish because I was so worried about myself when things weren't going well. And when things aren't going well for yourself, you get pouty, you get a little depressed, you walk into the locker room with, doo-doo face, it affects the next person. And he was really big on energy. If everyone's connected and all of a sudden, one person's disconnected, the whole thing falls apart. So I think those are the times when you have to find success in other people to make you happy too. And if you don't have a great game, how can you affect the game in a way where maybe you're not shooting the ball well tonight? Maybe you're not defending great tonight. Maybe you're in foul trouble tonight. How can you still affect the game in a positive way for your teammates to get a win? Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. If you don't win, all of it is just noise.
And was there a moment when you understood the bigger picture?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, so 2002, we go undefeated. I mean, it can't get any better than that. We had a great run, a great team. And then the next year we come back. We have 5 freshmen. It was a complete rebuild, even though, outside expectations said, oh, you're going to win it all again. I think we lost 5, 7 games. It was a very frustrating year my junior year. We won it, but it was just a frustrating year. Because? Well, Coach had these expectations of a style of play, and we just had personalities that, just fought against them. If he said white, we said black. And it was a constant fight.
Were you leading that charge?
Yes, absolutely. Because at that time, Coach couldn't bend. He wouldn't bend back then. Now he bends. He wouldn't bend back then. And so there was a lot of friction.
And so how did you manage that?
Well, I think that's when I started leaning and listening a little bit more. And that's when I learned that, what he was saying was only trying to help me. And I think there was a point there where I was also getting frustrated. Why are we playing like this? Why can't we play as well as we played last year? And you have to find a way to change the way you think. Like, this team is different than last year's team. And that's why when I saw outside of expectation, that's the one thing you guys got to be really careful of. Number 1 doesn't mean anything right now, right? I mean, we all know that. Number 1 means nothing right now. And I think you go back to what made you so successful last year, and it doesn't matter, because you got to do it all over again every single day. Every single day.
So what would you tell the teammate who only experiences love through their performance, and that's what's driving the selfish behavior? Right. And you understand, hey, this needs to change for us to be better. Right. How do you approach that?
I mean, you have to have a conversation. You have to be very honest. And I found that people react really well to honesty. I think sometimes in this world, we don't want to hurt people's feelings, but I think when you're honest with people, that's when you can have a real conversation. That's when real change can happen between teammates. And you'll find certain teammates are better than others at that. There's certain teammates that talk and you're like, maybe you should just not say anything. So I think as a team, you can really understand what teammates and who can have certain conversations with each teammate.
And when did you feel comfortable enough to be fully honest with your teammates?
Well, I had to be fully honest with myself first. There were certain things that I wasn't getting done on the court. You can't expect someone to hold the standard if you're not. So I had to look in the mirror my junior year and really hold myself accountable first. And then when I did that, I was a little bit more comfortable helping people out and kind of showing them the way of what Coach Arima wanted.
And as you alluded, this team is preseason number one, something you experienced. Best lesson you learned going through that and dealing with the outside expectations?
You have to embrace it. You have to embrace it. You really have to embrace it. You have to take it all in. You have to process what it is. It's obvious this team is very talented. I witnessed it firsthand last year at the Final Four, a couple possessions away from being in the national championship game. So all those things, it's experience, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't come back and do it this year. So there has to be that balance of experience and just being a little naive.
Well, and to that point, and the next we're going to go into pressure, is after you win back-to-backs, Coach says this: I don't want to hear any talk about who the best player in the country is, who the player of the year is, who the toughest player in the country is. It's her. End of discussion. So he is saying these things publicly. What's your relationship with pressure?
Well, it's funny because he never said that to me face-to-face. Maybe that's why I think I still suck. Maybe I have Coach Arima issues still. He's so smart, because all you want to do is prove him wrong when you're in school. Because D, you can't guard the dribble. D, you can't rebound. You can't, that's all you hear over and over. He has a different way of motivating you, and you're always trying to prove him wrong. And ever since I was a freshman, I walked in there, sat on the bench for the first 18 games. I'm like, what am I doing in the middle of nowhere on the bench? Like, I could be in UCLA on the beach playing 40 minutes a game. Like, I couldn't understand all this stuff. So it was literally, those were the best 4 years of my life, and they were the hardest 4 years of my life. But when you get his approval at the end, it's just all worth it. And you understand what he was trying to get out of you.
And so if pressure was a person and you were talking to pressure, describing the impact it had on you, what would you say to it?
It broke me down. It broke me down and it made myself pick myself up many times where I just wanted to quit, really. It's difficult.
Do you remember a time when you wanted to quit?
There was a game my senior year. We played at Notre Dame. It was a regular season game. We lost by like 15. I just remember going to the bathroom and I just lost it. Like one of those movie scenes where you're throwing stuff, you're hitting stuff, like I'm crying. I was just a complete mess, and here I am. I'm supposed to be the senior leader, and I just lost it. And Coach Arima came back there, and he consoled me in a way which he never did before. Like he always did, he's tough love, man up, get back out there. But that was the one time where he knew I was done. I was completely physically and mentally drained, and it beat me up. It completely won.
And how did your teammates respond to that?
They didn't talk to me for a month.
And how did you guys get past
They're
that?
leave D alone. Sorry, what was that?
And how did you guys get past that collectively?
It was hard. It was a daily challenge, really. It was a daily challenge for our whole team. Because expectation and the pressure of having to win every game just beat us up. It did. It beat us up emotionally, physically, mentally. We were exhausted. And then we go in the Big East tournament, and then we lose in the semifinals. So we didn't even win the Big East tournament that year. So now we're going into the tournament, defending champs, and we have zero confidence, nothing. We were going in there just feeling like if we can get to just the Elite Eight. And, we found a way to, every weekend get a little bit better, and then, we luckily won.
And have you asked yourself over your career, what's the point?
I ask myself right now, what's the point? Why am I in Eugene right now as a 37-year-old going to play against a bunch of 21-year-olds that are going to run circles around me tomorrow? But, I still love to play, We were in Stanford, and they were running that triangle, and we were just oh my God, when is this going to end? And then we look up, And there's still another 15 seconds of back cuts to guard. And we're just, me and Sue were like, why are we out here right now? But, because I still love to play. I still love to compete. I still love being out there. I still love being in the locker room. There's this little bit of fire that's still burning that, I'm still scratching the surface of a different point in my career. And, I still really love to play.
And you've been at it for a while, and you've sort of seen the evolution of social media in today's athlete. And I asked an athlete to write a letter to social media as if it were a person. I'd like to read that to you and just get your thoughts on this. Dear social media, you feel like an unhealthy relationship that I can't get out of. The amount of time I waste on you is embarrassing to admit. I don't know why I keep coming back to you. It feels like an addiction. When I have a second, I check in on you. You have the power to make me feel good about myself, but also the power to do the opposite. When I'm with you, I start to feel me comparing myself to others, which fuels a dark competitive energy that scares me. Someone asked me, what value do you add to my life? I didn't have an immediate answer. I started to think about the times that I have taken a break from you and how much healthier I felt without you. But then the fear of missing out brought me right back to you. As I reflect on our relationship, I realize that I need to pursue peace. The question I need to answer is whether or not I can do that with you in my life.
It's a funny question. I don't have social media.
Because?
There's just this little piece of me that likes to be private still. We're in a time where everything is for everyone. And I feel like just those little times are for me. And, I just never got down with social media.
It's so interesting because some of these young athletes work so hard to build their following. And then they have a moment where the world pays attention to them. There's criticism.
Right.
And then they realize, I don't want this anymore. Have you seen that with people around you?
Yeah. I mean, I have, a lot of my teammates, obviously from the younger generation, and they love social media. They love it. And, the minute they get that criticism, they sign off or they lash out. And it's like, who are you talking to right now? Like, literally, I just don't understand the being friends with people you don't know, that you've never met. But then I understand there's the other side of social media that's very positive, and you can reach different, sides of the world and interact and share things. So there are a lot of positives. And
so if you were advising the younger generation on dealing with the digital distractions,
right,
just anything involved with the phone, you would say what?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to get away from it. I think, I don't have social media, but I'm on ESPN you know what I mean? Like, you find a different way for technology to affect your life. I think, everything in moderation can be useful. But don't let that ruin your day or make your day. I don't think it's that important.
And have you been able to detach from the approval of others?
Oh, yeah. I think, the best thing about that is I could say whatever I want. I wake up in the morning, and I don't give a shit who says anything, because it never comes back to me. I really don't care. Like, it never comes back to me. I think people are always watching what they say, because, the next morning you wake up and I'm like, oh, can you believe Sabrina said that about her teammate? Oh, I don't have that. I wake up and I'm like, whatever a stranger said halfway around the world, I never hear it.
Well, I'd like to just show you one more clip. This is from Coach K, and this is the best lesson he learned from his mother.
I'll go back to a thing my mom said to me. My mom never went to high school. She was a cleaning lady in Chicago and the best person in my life. And she told me when I was going to high school, she said, the first day, she says, Mike, make sure you get on the right bus. And in Chicago, I had to take 2 city buses. There wasn't anything bad. I just had to do that. And I said, no, I already know. I know. And she says, no, that's not the bus I'm talking about. From now on, you're driving your bus through life. Make sure you only let good people on it. And if you go on someone else's bus, make sure they're good people. And those good people will help you get to places that you will never get alone.
Thoughts?
It's a good mom. When I think of my parents, They were both immigrants. My dad actually migrated twice. He went from Italy to Argentina, and then both my parents from Argentina came to the U.S. And at a very early age, they taught us to have really good people around us in life. And till this day, every time I go home, it's the same 10 people around. Every time we have dinner, it's the same 10 people. You know, I'm really connected to having a small group that really understands you. I think that's really important. And as you guys go in life, you'll find those people that understand you and understand how to make you a little bit better, that make you laugh, that can tell you the truth. And, you know, and that group changes as, you know, the scenery changes, but there'll be 2 or 3 friends that you'll have for life, and hold on to them because they're really, really important.
And if you were going to take what he just said to the quote you had after your senior year, you win the national championship, and you say this was the happiest and the saddest day of my life.
Yeah.
How are those?
I mean, it was the best 4 years of my life, hands down. It was the hardest, but it was the best. I learned so much about myself. You learn that whatever barrier someone puts on you, you can break right through that. You know, you can just do so much if you put your mind to it, if you make sure you let other people help you, you make sure you listen, you trust. All those things I learned in that 4-year span that, you know, before that, I had no concept of. And I knew that was, you know, it was never going to be the same, and it never has been the same. I've had some great times out of college, you know, Olympics and WNBA, playing overseas, but there's just this connection in college that you make that you can't make anywhere else.
And you've climbed the mountain that they're climbing. If there was one piece of advice that you would leave them with, it'd be what?
Stay mad. Just stay mad.
Let's give it up for Diana.